Getting the chance to romance historical samurai isn't new to the world of otome. The political undertones of the narrative manage to really sell the drama, but then you have the added dose of possible romance and things get a bit more interesting. Bakumatsu Renka Shinsengumi was initially released on PlayStation 2 in 2004 and finally makes its way west and serves as a somewhat cozy and mature otome that we don't see too often in the genre today.
おめえもよ、詰め物でもいいから、もっとこの辺をムチムチっと。
Bakumatsu Renka Shinsengumi introduces its voiceless and nameable female protagonist, Suzuka Sakuraba, who grew up in a dojo owned by her father. However, with stars in his eyes, her dad leaves her and her mom for the joy of adventure, leaving them to fend for themselves. Suzuka's mom remarries into the Aizu clan, and we learn about how capable of a fighter Suzuka is. This is seen by a group of samurai, and she is then enlisted into the Maibu Roshigumi, where she'll serve in Kyoto. Suzuka is not your average lead character. Narrative moments do well to highlight the struggle of being a female samurai, and the supporting cast doesn't always take it easy on her. It creates some interesting moments, but it does require the player to understand the choice mechanics, which aren't fully explained in the beginning. I do wish that she was fully voiced to show emotion during the more impactful moments, but the story does provide her with an avatar on the screen that displays her reactions. The story itself has the pacing of a classic otome. It's slow and full of exposition to describe each character in detail, maybe even more than necessary. While this has been perfected over the years, it's clear that in these early times, the writing is much more aimed to fully establishing the relationships and taking the time needed to make them believable. The entire story takes place across 20 or so chapters depending on which character you end up with. I will say that the first time through the game may be confusing as there's quite a bit of interactivity that might leave you confused on how to choose best boy. There are 10 routes to get yourself on and a range of samurai boys to interact with, even one who prefers to cross-dress. The romance routes are decided based on which character you spend time with and your responses during dialogue. It's not explicitly revealed whether you get it right or not, but I didn't have an issue unlocking romance CGs with the boys I wanted. Standout boys would have to be Asami Kondo and Soji Okuta, but that's only because I like their charming attitudes. After the interacting phase, the narrative of the chapter will kick into place. The animations of the characters are great. They don't have too many poses, but their mouths move, and there's even rain effects for some of the scenes. I wouldn't say I liked how the game took place within some of the same environments that made it feel repetitive, but it's par for the course considering the length of each route. Bakumatsu Renka Shinsengumi features an updated autosave feature that comes in handy when you're going for multiple routes. While the chapter narratives are the same for some routes, the character interaction scenes are unique but brief. It's easy to know which choices are the less sassy of the three when interacting with the characters, but you're free to have fun with the bonding scenes. The narrative as a whole becomes politically charged with brief bouts of action, but it's spread out over a relatively lengthy narrative. The developers seem to understand the story's complexity and included a highly detailed term dictionary that really explains everything you need to know. However, the casual nature of the routes and not really knowing what you're doing the first time through might leave some first playthroughs unfulfilling. However, as I became more comfortable with the menus and systems, I found more enjoyment in these scenarios. The illustrations have been updated along with the voiced audio, but this is essentially the same story. I really enjoyed the CGs and epilogue scenes that wrap up each interaction, but sadly not every route is as compelling as I hope. It's not necessary to play every route to understand the full story, but some routes do skip chapters. However, once you see everything, repetition sinks in and you're left hoping the character interactions carry the story, and they don't always. I feel like the cast should have been cut in half here, but that's just because I didn't like every boy. I'm looking at you, Haisuki. Bakumatsu Renka Shinsengumi is an otome from the past that deserves to be experienced by modern fans of the genre. It's like a time capsule that serves to deliver on a maturely political and action-filled narrative along with some decent romance routes that we don't see too often. The pacing and required replayability pad the runtime, but the full narrative is a compelling and almost nostalgic experience. Noisy Pixel is giving Bakumatsu Renka Shinsengumi a 7.5 out of 10. Thank you for watching. Please read the full review at noisypixel.net. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers who work hard to deliver news, reviews, previews, and more. Please subscribe to keep up with all our future content.
Noisy Pixel.